Swillow here, and today I'm going to be bringing you a versus mode guide. So basically, I'm about to play a versus mode match right now, and I'm going to talk about what you can do to how you approach versus mode. It's kind of confusing at first, but it becomes very simple once you understand the ideal ways to score. So the main ways to get big points is to complete mission objectives, to defeat large abnormal titans, and to do chain attacks with your allies. Right now I'm in a one-on-one, so chain attacks is not an option. So let me just, right now we're getting into a match. I'm going to jump down here and I'm going to capture this base real quick. Capturing bases is a good way to get a quick little points. You can also destroy other players' bases by using the bomb. If you look down at my item thing on the right, you see the bomb there, and I can use that bomb when near an opponent's base to destroy it and then rebuild my own. So that's a very helpful way to get some points and take down some of your opponent's territory. So right now I'm about to defeat a Titan that's a mission objective. The mission objectives show up as the little green icon on the map, and if you look up at my score there, I just scored like a pretty large amount of points for doing that. So mission objectives are really important to complete, but at the same time, when you're in big battles with like 8 players, you have to be smart about which ones you go for, because there's so many players on the map, it's not going to be realistic for you to tackle them all like I can right now. In a one-on-one situation like this, it's going to be easier for me to go after the mission objectives on my own. Which, right now the other guy's pretty close to it, so I'm not even going to try to go after it. It would be a waste of time for me to try to go after it at this point since he's already near it. So I'm going to just go capture more bases and take down some titans to score points while he finishes that mission, and we wait for the next one to pop up. Pretty much when destroying titans, most of the time you're just going to go for the neck, and that's good enough. But if you feel like you can take off a couple of limbs in the process, that will help boost your score when defeating the Titan. But at the same time, you don't want to get like too caught up on trying to delimb them constantly, or that's just going to slow yourself down, especially because you want to focus more on the missions and the other ways to score points. If you look at my items down in the bottom left corner, let me go over what these different items can do and how you can use them. So on the left, I have the paintball. The paintball is really helpful from stopping your opponent from knowing where the next mission objective is. So if you properly time your paintball usage, let's say after your opponent, like after someone clears a mission and right before the next mission pops up, if you throw a paintball out at that period of time, it's going to be really difficult for your opponent to see where the next mission objective is. So definitely time the use of your paintballs to obscure your opponent's ability to tackle missions. And then if you look at the bottom, I have that's the stun. That's the stun grenade, and the stun grenade is very strong in just stopping movement altogether. It will stun them and they have to mash out of it, which pretty much immobilizes them for a good, I would say, 5 seconds. It's gonna slow them down for 5 seconds. So if you find yourself going neck to neck with your opponent, going for a mission objective, it's a good idea to throw out one so that you can get the upper hand on them. If you look at the top, this is the shield item. The shield item can actually stop items. So if you see your opponent about to utilize one of these items, which it'll pop up a prompt on the screen, it'll say like this player's about to use numbing bullet or something like that. That's when you can throw that out and protect you and any nearby allies from the attack, the item. In a one-on-one situation, it's easy to stop basically all the attacks, but if you're in a big battle with a lot of players, you have to pick and choose which ones are worth stopping, because otherwise you're going to run out of them quickly. So you definitely have to be able to evaluate, like, this is an item worth stopping at this moment because it may compromise my ability to score big points and such. So right now, I'm definitely getting the upper hand on my opponent in clearing missions. And when I'm not going for missions, I'm definitely trying to just do other little things to score points. Once I've been able to recognize that my opponent is much closer to the mission objective than I am. So I'm getting lucky right now. The missions are spawning very close to me. So it's pretty easy points for me right now. You know, there's definitely some randomness in where the mission appears. And you just have to, like, Like, it's all about improvising. That's an important part of versus mode and being good at versus mode. I found is that you have to be able to use a lot of really good judgment in saying this is worth going for, this isn't worth going for, and you just can't let yourself get caught up on trying to do one thing. Otherwise, you're not going to be bringing in enough points to win at the end. So you always have to be trying to balance and juggle in your mind, like, what is the best options to go for? Do I want to go for the mission? Is it practical for me to complete the mission? Should I take down some of my opponent's bases? Should I go for some titans and such? So that was a pretty straightforward, as I can tell. My opponent kind of had an idea to go for missions, but I think that I optimized my play a little better in between mission objectives, and I also did get lucky with some mission spawns, which allowed me to get a pretty nice score over him. And that's pretty much the basic flow of versus mode and how you're going to approach it. And I will definitely potentially make another video covering versus mode in the future as I learn more and more, but I feel like I gave a pretty solid indication of how you can approach versus mode as it's currently being played. I've definitely feel like I've got a good grasp on versus mode, at least compared to people that are currently playing, as I've did pretty well in most of my versus matches, and I've learned a lot just from playing. I've definitely played a couple of really strong players that kind of gave me insight to some of those tips. So I definitely hope this was helpful for you. When you go online and jump into versus for your first time, it's probably going to be a little overwhelming on what you should be going for, but hopefully I was able to give you an idea. Firstly, go for mission objectives if they're near you, but don't overextend yourself and focus too much on missions if it looks like other players are going to reach them before you, especially if your teammates. Like, if your teammates are going for the mission, then definitely let them cover it, and then you just focus on building up points other ways. And then if your opponents are going to get the mission, maybe if you're close, you can try to use items to combat them and get to the mission first. But in a lot of cases, it's usually better to just say that I can't get to the mission in time, so let me just focus on getting points in other ways. Definitely keep an eye on the map. Like, look for where the enemy set up bases so that you can destroy those. So that will definitely help bring more points in for you to take out their bases and build a base over theirs. So there's a lot of map management, a lot of like picking good routes that can maximize your point scores. And there can also be really powerful titans that appear on the map, as I mentioned, like Armor Titan, Beast Titan, and stuff like that sometimes. Those are important to go to as well, but they're very strong they're hard to kill. So if you don't feel confident that you're going to be able to take them down in a good amount of time, like if the map is almost finished, like if you only got less than a minute, then maybe you won't be able to even defeat them in time. So it might not be worth going for them. And if a lot of other players are fighting it, it definitely becomes like it can become luck of the draw, because whoever gets like that last finishing blow is going to get the big points. You still get points for hitting it in general, but the person who gets the finishing blow is going to get the big points. So you definitely have to be like, sometimes you don't want to get caught up in that mess of a bunch of people trying to fight the rare Titan and you're not able to get enough points out of it to keep the score in your favor. So those are definitely kind of things you will consider when you play versus mode, and try to outscore and consider like, what should I be going for as opposed to something else. And I also mentioned the chaining, which is something you can do with allies. This is something that I'm still trying to master. It's really confusing. It's something I would definitely feel like I would want to talk about more in a later video as I get more experience with it. But basically the way chaining works is, if you and another player are attacking a Titan together or within a vicinity, it's going to give you like a chain score going, which at the end of that chain period, you'll get like a huge cumulative amount of points based on how big your chain was. So I've definitely seen some players get like 50 chain and then get like 2,000 points or 3,000 points out of nowhere. So I feel like chaining is something that's going to come into play as people start to learn how to play versus mode better, because I've definitely seen that it has the potential to give you a huge boost in your score when done properly. But it's like I said, it's something that isn't too clear right now, and it requires like a lot of understanding on all the players partaking in it to really get the most out of it. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions about versus mode or even some tips that maybe I didn't mention here, feel free to leave a comment. Peace.